Let's talk about ways that the fearful avoidant does not show up well during conflict. As someone who once really leaned as a fearful avoidant leaning anxious with a husband who was a fearful avoidant leaning avoidant, I definitely can tell you about some things that I learned in conflict. So back when we were in that space, one of the only times we really struggled was with conflict. And so I, of course, wanted to always fix things right away. I wanted that connection immediately. I wanted to co-regulate. I wanted to talk about the problem, over talk about the problem, be vulnerable, put all the feelings out there. A lot of times was very emotionally reactive and would pretty quickly go into a fight trauma response whenever he would go into his avoidant side. So what he would do is, of course, what an avoidant does. And he would pull away, shut down, disengage. He would want space to go and handle and self-soothe on his own. I wasn't able to do that. I needed to co-regulate. And of course, in a healthy relationship, you need to be able to do both. You want to self-regulate when you have to, and you want to be able to co-regulate and help each other out together. So there's two things that I would do really to not show up well in conflict whenever we would have an argument. When I was in my fight trauma response, because I noticed him pulling away, and so that would trigger me and I would just escalate, what would happen is I would notice that I was lashing out and I would say hurtful things, and I would also repeat myself over and over again and just sort of beat a dead horse to death. These are pretty common things with fearful avoidance, and here's why. We remember that fearful avoidance, their core issues are their trust issues and their betrayal issues. These come from childhood and their early bonds with their caregivers, and they bring these things into adulthood. The other thing is they really want to be seen, heard, and understood at a very deep level. They don't want that superficial crap. They really want you to get to know them for who they are, and they want you to see them and experience them for who they are. So it's important to know that the trust issues with a fearful avoidant don't necessarily have to center around cheating. It could just be anything that they think you're going to break your trust in any way or betray them in any way. They're always sort of looking for something that is untrustworthy, whether it's you coming home an hour late and forgetting to call, or you forget an event, or you just don't show up in the way they expect as far as protecting you, providing for you, what they may consider some sort of disloyalty. They're very, very funny about any little thing. And so things that other people would sort of work through quickly, to them might feel like a huge betrayal, and they're going to be very much overreactive and have much, much bigger feelings of betrayal around even sometimes small things. So for instance, like if your words and actions do not align, if you say you're going to do something and you don't, even if it's like just hanging something or doing yard work or whatever it is, if you consistently do that, that's going to build up for them, and that will become a trust issue for them. So the first thing that I would do is I would notice that I was repeating myself over and over again, over explaining stuff, and I knew I was doing it, but I didn't know why. My husband would even say to me, I gotcha, I heard it. The first 5 times you said it, you've already said it. And of course he would feel berated, because who wouldn't? But I would notice that I was doing it, but I would keep doing it. And here's why. As a fearful avoidant, we really try to control things a lot of the time because we want to feel safe. So if we can control everyone and everything and everyone's behaviors around us and their feelings, we feel safe. We think they're going to become a safer place for us, and that helps us with our trust issues. So if we repeat ourselves over and over again, then we feel like if we just keep talking about it, they're going to get it. If they get it, they're going to get me. They're going to look out for me. They're not going to do these things that hurt me again. And so especially with an avoidant, when they tend to sort of pull away from the conversation or the conflict and detach, then you're triggered. Then you feel like you have to explain yourself even more, which of course is not going to work because they're already shutting down. You need to wait till they have space and they can come back and they're ready to listen. But this is just a way for us to feel like if I just keep talking about it, then they're going to feel me, see me, hear me on that deep level. The second thing is the lashing out and saying hurtful things. Myself, whenever I would do that, I would feel awful. I would have extreme guilt and remorse, and most fearful avoidants do. I would apologize. I mean, usually there was things that I would say or that would come out that he literally didn't even think were a big deal when I apologized later. But to me, because that was out of character for me, that felt big to me. And we fearful avoidants are really, really good at beating ourselves up and falling into deep guilt cycles. So here's why fearful avoidants will do things like that during conflict and hurt other people by lashing out. When you have hurt them and they feel deep pain, because remember, they feel pain on a different level. They feel it extremely intensely. They're your big feelers. So whenever I would be hurt subconsciously, none of this is purposefully, I would lash out and say something to hurt him. Because if he can feel my pain, then we have a level playing ground. And if he can feel just a smidge of what I'm feeling, then I know that he gets it and he's not going to do that thing again that hurt me deeply, whatever it is. Now, remember, these things that really hurt deeply for most people would probably not feel so big. And a lot of times for fearful avoidance, a couple of days, a week later, once we've had more time to process it and we're not in a trauma response, it isn't as big of a deal to us either. But we like to sometimes come in reactive and ready to fight. So it was really an aha moment for me when I realized, oh my gosh, this is why I'm doing this. And it made perfect sense. And I could attribute it to my attachment style. And that was step one. The second step is, now what do you do with it? So if you are a person who finds that you do this in conflict and you're not feeling good about the way that you show up and you know it's negative behavior, or you have a partner who does these things, it's time to learn better, healthier, more productive ways to show up in conflict so that you're not hurting the other person and you're able to come across in a way that actually gets to a resolution without anybody's feelings getting hurt or without fighting unfairly. So if you're interested in learning more, all of my information's in the bio. Please reach out.